Welcome back to our city. I'm pleased to be joined by the councilman of the First Ward, Councilman Manny Grova. And Councilman, last year a number of groups volunteered for various cleanups in your ward. Students from Kean University's biology class adopted Slater Park. Maybe first of all, tell our residents where Slater Park is, and then talk about some of the students.
Slater Park is an area behind, I always say it's Ripley and First, and then you keep going around. There's a Slater Drive, which brings you into Slater Park. But we just, the city has redone that whole park. We had the new hike, bike, and trail run right up to Slater Park, because initially it stopped down at the foot of the soccer fields. And so now it continues all the way into the Slater Park area. And these kids are great. They came down and they pulled weeds, and I'm watching them do this, and they're not pulling every weed. So I inquired, and they basically were identifying which weeds were a problem and which plants were actually good plants.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So they left some of the good plants to hope that they germinate and drag out and cover more area, and at the same time they were pulling out the bad weeds. So they did that, and they also cleaned the park up and picked up litter and painted the railings and everything. And
so some of the natural plant life they were protecting.
Yeah, they were leaving them behind. And
you and I wouldn't know the difference. No,
they just weed whacked everything. But they did a nice job, and I'll tell you that park there, Slater Drive, gets used by a lot of people that go fishing. They're still fishing that.
And there's a lot of environmental and Earth Day things going on in your ward. Earth Day, the marina, water testing, boat ride, high school students. Maybe you can talk about some environmental workshops, the Oyster Project.
Well, they had Future City got together in collaboration with our city, and they started doing a program where they brought in some environmentalists, and they're trying to get oysters to grow in the Arthur Kill. And it's unique. They dumped a bunch of oysters in there, and they're actually monitoring the reproduction of the oysters. We had Jonathan's group, which is the Works Elizabeth. He's been out there with me every spring, and we put out planters in front of businesses along our commercial districts, put in nice flowers and colorful plants. And I mean, a lot of good stuff is going on to keep the environment green, and every year we plant a bunch of trees down in the First Ward area. And we try to, anytime there's a cleanup or a volunteer group that wants to do cleanup, we always direct them towards the waterfront so that our waterfront could be less polluted. And they pick up the cans and the bottles. See, unfortunately, our waterfront, as beautiful as it is, across the river is the Staten Island. And there's an old docks that are out there in Staten Island that, as the years go on, they get deteriorated, and they're not in use. So we get a lot of chunks of pylons and wood that float across the river to our side, and then we end up having to clean it up.
I know that's interesting, because we actually have done stuff with our waterfront, and over there, with the exception of the shipping area, they've left the other stuff really deteriorate in a bad way. Right. But people used to swim there.
Yep.
I know this guy comes back from California every year, and he swims across the channel.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why, but he does it. And then he comes to my office after he takes a shower, and he tells me how he just swam from Elizabeth to Staten Island. He's 70-something years old, and he does it. He said, when I was 5, I used to do it. I said, okay.
It's interesting. When I was 4, I remember my uncle bringing me where we now have Veterans Park with the beautiful flags, and we light our Christmas tree there every year. That used to be an actual yellow sand area. And my uncle used to take me when I was a kid, and we'd just sit on the sand and wet our feet in the water.
Really?
So it was like a little beach.
Safety is always a priority in every ward, and we talked earlier about it. Some of the things that you're doing in your neighborhood to keep crime down.
Well, one thing that we do, and I started this even before I was councilman, is having these block watch organizations. And I always thought back then, and I still think today, they're very helpful. And so what I do is we have 2 block watch meetings every month in different parts of my ward. I send out, a postcard to everyone to remind them about the meeting. We have members of the police department come down. And they've been very, very helpful in deterring a lot of the crime, because as much as I drive around the neighborhood and policemen drive around the neighborhood, we don't see everything. And so it's nice to have those extra set of 50 to 100 eyes out there who bring to the meeting information to help the police curtail some of the crime. And it's been very, very successful. We have some very good meetings. We bring information to these meetings, and usually within the next month or within the next 2 months, there's a positive result that the police go out and actually arrest some people or take guns off the street. And it's really helped in that reduction of crime that we talked about.
And you attend the neighborhood block watch meetings to the best of your schedule. You probably attend 85% of them if you can during the course of a year, which is the bulk of them. So you hear firsthand what the folks are saying, as well as then work with the necessary departments.
Correct. Not all of the complaints that come up are police related. So what I try to do is I keep a notepad, and anytime complaints or concerns come up, I keep track of them all, and then within the week following the meeting, I'll send out my letters to various department director heads, and we try to get those things taken care of.